rolling through some of these other questions real quick? Do you think that's good?
Yeah, let's do it, and then we can y'all can talk a little bit about your recruiting trip this week and anything else on that front. We will start with HCIW, who has been very involved on the board recently in the basketball talk, so we appreciate that. He asks, given the current basketball roster plus Miles, who seems like a given, what are your expectations for the Hoop squad next year? I mean, there's probably going to be top 10 preseason buzz for this team. This is with the assumption that number one, they get Duke Miles and they have that combo point guard. And then number two, take your pick of a guy at the 4 spot. I don't think they're going to get anybody who really moves the needle that much at power forward, because I don't think they want to run off Chaney Johnson. I think Bruce Pearl thinks that highly of Chaney Johnson. And look, Jason, I think it's interesting. We're sort of seeing in real time how different coaches do things, because Bruce Pearl is saying, I don't want to run off Chaney Johnson. Other coaches, and I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way to do it, but other coaches are saying, let me get as many good players as possible and figure that part out later. The thing for Pearl, and the reason he can do this, he's proven he can do it. He proved he could do it last year with a team that was deep and didn't play as many minutes. And they thought that they had kind of good complementary players. I mean, they did. They went too deep at every position. So he's capable of doing that at Alabama, at Michigan, at Kansas right now, certainly at Arkansas. They're bringing in everybody that they can. And so,
even Duke, which hasn't done it. We're seeing teams that haven't done it go into the portal who are also recruiting high school guys. We're seeing guys go, hey, look, we need more veteran presence. I think that's the thing I look at for this roster, Nathan. I mean, it's like you look at it and go, like you got guys that play a lot of basketball, and you got 2 veterans coming in to join guys that played together. It's an intriguing roster. Here's the only thing: we just don't know what the rest of the league's going to look like. You get a feel for it, but you just in normally 10 years ago, if you knew what this roster Auburn looked and you knew what everybody else looked like, you got up. Now we'll have a better idea in a couple of months of okay, what's everybody going to look like? We have no idea what Arkansas is going to look like. Kentucky, and you're going to play all these teams. Alabama, how do they finish up? Does anybody leave before this thing? There's so many things we just don't know. I do think this is another team that you're going to look up and you go, hey, give themselves a chance to be there at the end. This team gave themselves a chance to be there at the end. Couldn't survive a bad game. That's it. You survive the Yale game. Who knows? This team might make the Final Four. That's the luck. That's the way it goes in the NCAA tournament. But man, they won an SEC tournament championship and won a bunch of games. I think they'll be a similar type team.
This will be a tournament team. I mean, I think there's little doubt at this point that if Bruce Pearl is able to put together a roster that he likes, that it's going to be a team that most likely makes the NCAA tournament. Yeah, like Jason said, we're so far zoomed out at this point. Concrete expectations I think are kind of hard to come by. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a top 10, top 12 team in the preseason. Janai Broome will carry we would be having so many different conversations if he wasn't back.
It'd be quite different.
That fills so many boxes for you.
Yeah, especially if you. I mean, this could be a much different team too. They could be if you play Broome and Dylan Cardwell together, and you have Chad Baker-Mazara, and you had this could be a big half-court UConn type of team. I mean, you could play that style, and they did some of that last year, even though they didn't play the 4 and 5, those bigs together very much. They played more half-court basketball and more set basketball than we've seen a Bruce Pearl team. They may be more of that this year with a team like this, and I don't know. There's lots of things that could look a little different for this team, but I expect the same thing to be that they'll be a pretty good team.
Yeah, I think that the reason that you haven't seen, it feels like every day you look up and a lot of these other teams are making transfer additions. The thing to remember if you're Auburn, and I understand people kind of doing that, looking up and seeing other places get good players. A lot of places are having to do that because they're having to replenish more than half their roster. Auburn got Chad Baker-Mazara back. Auburn got Janai Broome back. Dylan Cardwell, Chris Moore, Denver Jones. Like, they have the core of this team back, so they're not having to do that. They're just kind of having to do some patchwork. But I agree with Jason that, number one, this could be the best the league has been in a really long time, and we say that every single year. But especially with what Kentucky is doing to reload, Arkansas is going to be a monster in terms of talent. We'll see how it plays out, but in terms of talent, and then Alabama's roster is going to be absurdly talented as well. But for Auburn specifically, just looking in, in-house for them, top 10.